All right. Good evening, everyone. Everybody who's watching this particular video. Um, all right, I'm gonna kind of hop right to this, but the topic and purpose of this video is 10 very, very, very critical life skills that are, I think, things I've learned, and it's taken me years to learn. A lot of mistakes, a lot of failures down the road. So I'm gonna just hop right to it. So, skill number one, I think, is the most important because without this, then you don't know what you need to work on past this. So, skill number one is having clear goals. I often have people come up to me and they tell me things like, or they ask me things like, how do you stay consistent? How do you just like this? Or something to the sort of rhyme or reason of this, depending on the mood I'm in at the time. But it is, I do fall off at times. In those times I fall off, I reevaluate what I've done wrong. I'm not actually falling off in the sense of I just quit or give up, rather reevaluate where my mistakes were. The second part of the answer is the way that I stay consistent is that my goals are very clear, the end goals. Sometimes I have a hard time getting the little steps on the way right, but I know where I'm going every time. It's like getting on a ship going in sea and having a map, you know, kind of the general direction you're going. And sometimes you know that you need to navigate this way or that way. So that is two of the things I usually tell them. Now, moving forward from this, having clear goals, right? So I do recommend most people have their goals right in front of them. Wherever your workstation is, whether you have a station at work or you have a room that you spend a lot of time with, or you're in your personal environment, you need to be surrounded by the things that remind you. So have clear or crystal clear goals, right? They need to be so clear that if somebody asks you, what do you want to do? You shouldn't hesitate. That's how clear they need to be. You need to rehearse, 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 rehearse. And the times that I don't do this, I tend to lose sight of what it is I'm trying to do. And I made it a morning ritual for quite some time to write down my goals every single day. This is what I want to accomplish in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And then I break it down to the very granular what I need to accomplish today. But having those goals to be so crystal clear that nothing will deter you. If you're familiar with history, the idea when the Constitution in the United States was written was that it would be a document that guides our decisions versus our own biases, right? So we have biases, we have things that we believe in, and with those biases, those tend to lean our decision making, right? So we have a guiding document to tell us what we can and can't do, and of course that's open to interpretation. But the point is, at least it's a guiding document. That's how your goals will be. You evaluate decisions not through your own mental filter, but what actually aligns with those goals. So you're actually removing the emotion out of it, and you realize, okay, does this particular action align with this goal? And you go, not really, or yes, maybe it does, right? So that's number one. Well, goal setting, I can get into a long conversation. I've talked about it in other videos, but nutshell, number one, most important one, crystal clear goals, guiding document, right? Set up your own constitution, set up your own document that governs your decision on should I do easier for you to actually move forward, right? So number two is action, right? Now, this sounds oversimplified, but it is the second important one, right? Is to take action when it's appropriate, right? Is you have to have the action. So if you've heard the saying that is be, do, have, right? I don't know if you've heard it or not, but it's a common personal development saying that says that you need to be in order to do, in order to have, and do is that action component. A lot of times you go back to who do I have to be? Well, most of the time, in order to determine who you have to be, you actually have to start doing. So this is kind of a chicken or egg, right? When you have, the philosophy is that will start naturally if you become the person that you need to be first, right? The problem is you can't just make a decision generally and become that person without the action that makes you that person, right? It's the process that makes you that person. So through that process is action first. So it's not really do, be, have either, because doing isn't going to necessarily transform you if it's the wrong doing, right? If it's not the correct doing. So you have to have a conceptual phase in which you understand why you're doing what you're doing, and you have to have crystal clear goals to start forming you into the person you need to be, to where the action actually commences for you to attain those goals, right? So, and this goes back to those keys of personal development I talked about, which was strength or will, right? Going back into self-awareness, acuity, and then consistency, energy, right? Create balance in my life. Does this fit with the other components of my life? And this is part of that NLP work. This is part of that NLP development as well, is being able to make it and position it to where it fits in your own brain, and you realize it's not actually compromising other aspects of your life. So that's number 2. All right. Action, 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 action. I find action to be one of the most powerful tools, because you actually can see progress, and progress is the most powerful motivating force on the planet. It's progress. What surprises me is that the majority of people in this country, at least the United States, want to work for themselves, but yet the majority of people don't work for themselves. So there is a mismatch here, right? And so this is where you can start looking like, okay, how do I take this next step and become who I need to be to do what I want to do? Right. Okay. So number 3 is consistency. I think being consistent is in line with you taking action, but also being consistent in your goals. Yes, it's going to suck today. Yes, it's going to be fun today. Yes, you may experience rejection today. Yes, you may deal with this today. Vacillating my conversational point here and moving back to consistency, I will tell you that in my life, I've made a lot of errors. And consistency, there's blocks of my life where I struggled with consistency, but for the most part, I've been overall consistent. Some people have consistency issues all throughout their life, but I struggled with consistency during little phases of like severe depression or anxiety where I couldn't focus on what I needed to do. But for the most part, there was those phases of consistency. And the things that I've become good at today were a result of me being consistent in those actions. They weren't a result of me being naturally talented. It was consistently practicing the things, even when I didn't feel like practicing those things. I was just practicing. And I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do this. Practice anyway. Oh, I really don't want to do this. Practice anyway. Really don't feel like doing this today. Do it anyway. Don't feel like doing it today. Do it anyway. And next thing you know is you start getting good at these things, and you're like, oh, it really doesn't take much effort anymore. And you start moving forward. So being consistent would be number 3 on the list here. And to develop consistency, you have to have actions, and you have to have crystal clear goals. So you can see how it's kind of following in order here. So number 4 is keeping things incredibly simple. Okay. This one I've really struggled with. I still struggle with it quite a bit. And I think it's a very important skill, is to keep things so stupidly simple that anyone can do it, and anyone can do it. When I was young, I was a pretty stellar student in school, and I was put on all these advanced classes. I was put in all these things, and everybody kind of boosted my ego up and told me how intelligent I was and how smart I was, and so I thought that was a perk, right? I thought that was something that I could be use as advantage, was being intelligent. So I wanted to be more sophisticated than everyone around me. I wanted to show how complex I could make things and how complex I could actually create these systems to be. I said, oh, look how awesome this system is, right? I would make these games and they'd be complex. I'd make everything complex. And that's where my challenge began, because what I realized was by doing that, I actually lost viewership. If I lost all that, because nobody could keep up. Nobody could actually keep up with what I was laying out at my age bracket back then. So I actually saw my intelligence, for better or for worse, was not an actual advantage. Now, I'm not saying I was the smartest kid ever. What I am saying is that it has served as a bigger disadvantage in my life than it has as an advantage. So if you are in the intelligence bracket above average, be very careful about this particular one, because you have to keep things ridiculously simple. My my personal story with this is that, yes, I just told you that one, but my biggest one is, as I'm writing to my target market in marketing, as I'm writing these sales messages, as I'm writing these letters, it is very hard to get yourself in the mind of the person you're writing to if you can't keep it simple. Because you're like, what if they think this, or what if they think that, or what if they think this, or are they thinking this, or are they thinking that? And this starts getting very complicated, right? So the KISS principle, right? Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it silly, stupid, simple. Keep it whatever, right? KISS principle, just keep everything freaking simple, right? And so if you're using and applying some of these life skills in a dating scenario, right? You want to keep your dates simple. They don't need to be complicated, right? It's what I have found in my dating experience, and it's been pretty extensive throughout life, is that most people appreciate the little things. Most people do not appreciate above and beyond all this grandeur, right? The more people I've dated, they appreciate the very simple things. And my current girlfriend is more on that side than on the other. Of course, she can appreciate grandeur too, but the idea is that if you keep it very simple, it makes life a lot easier. And I'm not saying it doesn't need to cost anything. I'm just saying keep the concept simple. It's the little things that matter. Consistency is going to pay off in the long term more than anything else, right? Doing this big thing, this super complicated thing, but not following up with it or following through with it is another problem that people have, right? They do it once and it shows a message or it delivers a message, but then you don't do it again. Whereas if you did the little things every single day, it would actually pay off a lot more than the big things, right? So that is number 4. Number 5, I really love this one. Number 5 is getting around the word no. Okay. I am a strong advocate in believing that no does not mean no now or not ever. It means no right now. And it may mean not actually mean no right now either. So we are trained as kids, children, right, to take no as an answer from people, our parents, right? Take no, you get your ass kicked. You hear no, and if you try to push past it, you're punished. Or no means no, and shut up. And just, I think this is the biggest disadvantage that we are given as kids more than anything else, is we are taught to accept the word no. This creates mediocre people. Not this reason alone, but this in itself can create a mediocre people. And what I mean by that is, yes, you have potential to be more, but it creates mediocrity. It means that when you encounter resistance, you let go, right? You just like, no, that can't do it. And you let go. No, you need to respect the word no. No, you don't. You don't need to respect. Now you need to respect the person saying no, yes. So getting around the word no, right? Still navigating your goals and making your reality possible, what you see in your head, making it reality. You need to get around no. You have to learn to get around the word no. I don't know if some of you know that a big part of what I do today is I train sales. I train people in sales. And teaching people to get around that word is the most enjoyable aspect of my job, because it seems like such a contradiction when they realize that no actually doesn't mean no, right? So, and you find out real quick that no is usually just a complaint, and then you find out that no actually doesn't mean no, right? And so this is the thing. This is this automatic response that people deliver because they're not thinking, they're responding, because we live in this distraction war zone out here with all these distractions. No, I don't want to hear your crap because I got all this other crap to hear. So you got to learn how to grab attention and actually move past no and not be jolted when you hear no. A lot of people are rattled, right? You're making a phone call or you're making a sales call, you get rattled. And or if you're asking a girl or a guy out on a date and you hear no and you're like, oh, well, no, I'm so, right? So the way that we hired salespeople would be that you would tell the interviewee after the interview that they're not one of the top performers, right? Well, we just don't see you being a top performer. Bye, see ya, we're not hiring you, right? But if the interviewee was like, hold on, you don't even know me. Like, Give me the chance. I don't know what you guys know, but give me the chance to prove myself, and I certainly will be happy to prove you wrong. See, you're not taking the no. You're not taking that, hey, you suck, and okay. You're going, hey, I suck. Okay, goodbye. You're like, no, you know what? I'm not going to take that for an answer. And that's the idea, right? That is the idea, is to be very, very, very concrete and not accepting no as an absolute, right? But you still have to respect the person telling you no. And sometimes you have to challenge them. Sometimes you have to push them a little bit. But getting around the word no is so much fun because you actually realize the contradictions that happen in that person that's actually telling you no. So many times you can hear somebody say, oh, I'm not interested. No, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to put up with that. Or, hey, or if you're asking someone on a date and the girl's like, hey, I'm not interested. And you just don't let it rattle you, it looks and feels extremely confident, and the person usually will want to hear you out more, right? Whether it's a sales call, whether it's a date pitch, whatever, right? So get used to the word no, and it really, really gives you a lot of power down the road. All right, number 6 is communication, right? Learning how to communicate. And there's 10 principles inside of communication, which I usually go back to at the end of the day because I feel like it's the most important. Principle number 1, and I'll break this down real quick and then we'll move on, is to be interested in the person you're speaking to, not interesting, right? Don't make it about you. If you make it about you, then it becomes a problem. That doesn't mean you can't talk about yourself briefly, but it's being more interested in the person in front of you than you are about yourself. And this is true for all communication. This is not just nobody wants to hear about you. They want to talk about themselves. That's the reality of it. People love to talk about themselves. Now, with two people that are interested in each other, now you have a normal dialogue, right? You have going back and forth. This is a very hard one for a lot of people. Number 2 is not to be distracted by anything. That violates that communication boundary, right? You do not want to be distracted by ringing cell phones and all this other crap, right? And one thing that is a pet peeve of mine is when I'm talking to somebody and their phone goes or buzzes or so they just ignore you. You're like, hey, hello, are you there? Like, what the freak how is this little black thing more important than the live breathing blood body in front of you, right? And yeah, there's a person on the other side of this, but why is that text message so important? Now, sometimes it is important, but most of the time it's just BS. You flirting with some girl on Tinder, right? It's not actually like important, but maybe it's more important to you than the person in front of you. So this is where the thing is, right? Which communication principle are you going to violate? But yeah, if you do that, you're distracted by something, then you are violating number 2. Number 3 is to be sincere, right? To use a sincere friendly facial expression. And that is basically not to be cheesy and not to smile big if that's not who you are, but it needs to be sincere, but it also needs to be welcoming and friendly. If you look pissed off, people are going to feel like there's some kind of barrier in your communication. I'm very guilty of this. This is one I'm not very good at. I generally look pissed most of the time. It's because I'm really focused on other things and I need to be practicing communication daily. So I do violate this quite a bit. Number 4 is to use the correct level of assertiveness, right? You want to make sure not overly assertive to where you're putting too much pressure on people to the point where they don't feel comfortable around you. You also don't want to be a weak pushover, right? Where somebody just pushes you around and you're like, well, okay. So you want to use that correct level where that communication is about the same. I use like a third eye and kind of monitor if someone's listening and then you say something they kind of pull away. You can kind of be aware of where they're coming with the level of assertiveness and where you need to be. Number 5 is to communicate easily, right? Get your words right. Get your speech right. Get everything that you need to say in the most easy way possible, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Don't use language. That's actually one of the other ones, right? By the way, that's out of that person's comfort zone, right? If you're a scientist and you're talking to a regular person using big scientific words is actually a violation of communication. Because the point of communication, right, is to take a message or a perspective that's in your brain and to deliver it into someone else's brain, right? To take this crap right here and go, whoop, I'm going to pass it to you and I'm going to put it in your head. So if I'm using big words that you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, how effective is that? Right? Don't strain, don't sound rehearsed, don't sound cheesy, don't sound just like, that's why I hate those dating pickup lines, because they suck. They're rehearsed and they're cheesy to me. And that's going to violate number 3. And that's going to violate this one as well, because it sounds really, really rehearsed. And if you have a problem with like stumbling on your words, just practice. Hell, I mean, I do these ad libs, so I stumble a lot because sometimes I don't get my thoughts out. I haven't premeditated what I'm going to say in this. I just turn this dang thing on and roll, right? Get this done. Let's go. I am going to start. I got my other camera back. So I'm going to start doing pre-recorded videos. So that way I don't always have to do this live, which will probably be a little more easy for you guys to digest. Doing this on a monologue is actually kind of difficult for me without editing. So kind of difficult. I've been enough to where I get that decent skill, but still, I'd rather be smooth for you guys and shorten these up, right? Put these in 10-minute snippets instead of 40 because I ramble on like an idiot. All right. That's number 6. Wait, that was number 5 on the communication principles. Number 6 is don't distract the person with your body, which means wear appropriate clothes. It's really, really, really distracting to be a guy and you see a girl that's wearing revealing clothing. I mean, the guy, us guys, we don't respond very well when we see things that trigger our physiology. This is true for a lot of guys. If you're wearing something that's really revealing, guys, I don't know about you girls, but guys, we're totally off. We can't concentrate. And that's just how guys are wired, right? So don't distract that person. It might be true for females. I heard it is, but I don't know. I can't speak for females, but guys are thrown off by that. It's a biological thing that you want to make sure that you're not triggering that. Or the opposite is true. Don't smell bad. Take care of your hygiene. Don't have spinach in your teeth. Take care of yourself so you're not distracting them, because how distracting it is if you're sitting across from somebody and they have like a piece of leaf in their teeth and you're trying to pay attention to them, but you're like, oh, you're twitching, right? You're like, and you're getting OCD because you're paying attention to that. And what they're saying is like falling on deaf ears because you're dealing with that issue, right? So that would be number 6. Number 7, always tell the truth. Be consistent in telling the truth. Somebody finds out you lie, you lose so much credibility, and anything you say after that is probably going to be crap to them. So tell the truth. Don't waste people's time. And number 8, right? Well, X Give It To You says sometimes scandalous clothes are effective. They bring out the caveman brain. Yes, if it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? If you want the caveman brain for this person, then sure, yeah, bring it out. But I mean, I don't really see for me, there's no interest in bringing out caveman brain right now. So I don't think I want to make sure people are making rational decisions and not necessarily decisions that are all about, well, primal, I guess, in that sense. So don't be a caveman if you don't need to be. So where was I? Number 8? Was I on number 8? I can't remember what I was on. So let's do this. I say number 9 is speak at the prospect's level. Okay. Is make sure you communicate at the prospect's level so you're not insulting them, right? And you want to speak with the language that they'll be best received by those people. Don't necessarily, and I say prospect because I'm in sales, but speak at anybody's level. Speak at the person you're communicating with level. Don't try to overcomplicate it. Don't use words they don't understand. Try to keep it really, really simple. And then moving into a conversation, make sure you're actually continuing that, right? And if they ask you, say, the word I know for this is this, but then continue to explain that or ask them if they're familiar with that word, then break it down, help them understand, right? You want them to understand. The more complicated, this goes back to what I was talking about, keeping things simple. This is very, very important. And if you violate that, then what are you going to do, right? So number 10 is have the intention of making their life better, right? Have the intention of making their life better. If you have the intention of making their life better, then you will do the right thing by that person, right? You want to help people. You want to contribute to people rather, and you want to contribute to their lives and add things to their lives and make it more effective for them. And so you want that conversation to be focused on them and how you can improve that person. And sometimes just by asking them questions and getting to know that person, it helps, right? It really helps them. So that's communication, guys. And make sure that you follow that and you stick to it. And hopefully I didn't miss any of them. Got thrown off. But I got distracted, but I'm not actually talking to anybody. So, all right, that's communication. Number 7 is also a very, very important one. It's learning how to be a leader, right? Learning how to be an effective leader. I am a true believer in that leaders are forged. They're created. Leaders are created. Now, some people have higher leadership capabilities naturally, but to be someone who becomes a leader in your own way, and talked about this in another video, is practice being a leader, because at some point you're going to need to lead people, whether it's your family, whether it's your job, whether it's a company, whether it's people that you work with, whether it's your friends. Sometimes you have to be a leader. Sometimes you have to take the lead, right? Or even lead your own life in a right way. So learning leadership, there's a lot of, this is a huge topic, so I'm not going to get into it too deep, but learn leadership. That's number 7, right? All right. Number 8, be proactive. Okay. Be proactive, right? So many of us are focused on reacting to things that we're actually not thinking about what could happen and how to cover it up. Instead, we're just reacting to that particular aspect. We're just going, oh crap, well, I didn't expect that, then I react. No, you want to be proactive. You want to solve problems before they occur. You want to look at the problem and go, okay, this is what could possibly happen. I'm going to go ahead and solve that or cover it before it actually happens. You don't want to be reactive, but you also don't want to be in analysis paralysis, where you anticipate all the problems that are going to happen and never actually take action. Just anticipate, this is all of the things that could happen, or at least some of them, and what's most likely to happen. And I'm going to cover all my steps, and let's get moving. Let's create some momentum. Let's go. Okay. Number 9 is time and energy management. This is also, these are all big talking points. So time and energy management. So it's really focusing on understanding you can't manage time, but you can manage your energy, and you can manage yourself in time, because we all have 24 hours. What are you doing, right? Learn Stephen Covey's quadrants. Learn what quadrant 1 is, quadrant 2 are important and urgent, right? Or not important and not urgent. Which quadrant are you working in? What are your tasks? What can you delegate? How can you delegate? Anybody who knows me, I am a big delegator. I delegate a lot of crap. And it's not because I'm lazy. It's just I feel my time is better spent doing things that I'm good at. So I try to delegate. And I eventually get everything off my plate, and I get to be a little more free. So learn how to manage your time and learn what's important, and correctly assess how many dollars that your time is worth per hour. And then you realize if a task is worth that or not. And then you pay for it if it's worth that. All right. Number 10 is progress by metrics. You want to see progress. There is no single more powerful force for motivation than progress, right? If you're going to the gym and you're not seeing results, you're probably going to quit. If you're going to the gym and you're starting to see results, you're like, holy crap. And the next day you see more results. You're like, whoa. And the next day you're like, oh, dude, I got to keep doing this. Next day you do it. You start seeing, wow, this is getting crazy. I'm starting to see these crazy results. It's true for anything. There's nothing more powerful than results. So you want to get the results. You want to have those results. And that way the results motivate you, right? So you need, if you're attempting to crack down on your goal, or whatever it is, you want metrics to your progress. You don't want to just guesstimate or have a nebulous idea if you're making progress or not. And this is something I'm guilty of, because I put a qualitative metric sometimes to things, and I really should put a quantitative metric so I can actually measure the progress that I've made toward that goal, right? So when it comes to business, I always break it down. How many leads did I generate? What's my conversion rate, right? How many customers did I create? Out of those customers, how many transactions did I get? Out of those transactions, what was the revenue created? Average dollar sale from the revenue. What's the margin on it? And then I go, okay, I'm going to tweak this, or I'm going to tweak that, or I'm going to tweak this, or I'm going to tweak that this quarter. I'm going to tweak this quarter. And then I always have a thing that I can measure with, right? So I'm big on statistical analysis of business, because then you can actually realize what you're doing right and how you can actually affect your overall profit. Okay. So that's the same with anything. Measure, 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 test, measure, test, measure, test, measure. That's the goal. Okay. So there we have it. 10 things that you guys can apply to your life. I will probably dive into these deeper in detail in the future. So many things to discuss, so little time these days, but certainly want to keep getting content out. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this one. We'll probably do a longer one this weekend. Take care of yourselves. Have a good night.